let's link our models together. The idea behind linking these together is that you'll be able to place them on your site plans and be able to look and see what the elevations all look like, right? And the linking gives some really good functionality to quickly put things together in one file, although I will show you some drawbacks to those. Oh shoot, I thought, well, let's see here, site vicinity. Okay, what is the front setback here?
Which side?
This side.
That one is 10. No, that's our 20. That's our 20.
20? Okay. I just want to get the setbacks. Okay, so that one's 20 feet. And then this one on this side is 10. Okay.
And then the other two are 4.
On the back side, and then is it, which one? This one?
Yeah.
Okay. No,
no, sorry, that one.
This one, okay. So 4 foot, okay. And then 4 foot, okay. There we go. What's that?
I've always tried to figure out where you get these lines, and it's just like keyboard.
Oh, RP.
Things happen.
RP. Yep. Sorry, guys. Reference plane. These are reference planes. RP. Yep. Yep. You haven't used these? So reference planes.
Just draw detail lines and then delete them.
So that's the issue with detail lines. If you forget one, it will print, right?
Yeah.
Reference planes won't print. So even if you leave them on your screen, they won't print. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. RP. And then I was just using copy to copy them about to get our reference points here. But the thing is that they don't print, so I'm just using them as reference. They don't actually show up on here, right? All right, so we have all of our models here. They're hopefully on an existing phase, not to be demoed. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change to new construction. So we want to show we want to show new, previous plus new. No, we don't. And we're going to grab these and we're going to say to be demoed in new construction. Huh? There we go. So we want those to be demoed in new construction so that they go away. And I'm just going to, that looks pretty good. I assume everything's been taken care of. So now we're ready to link our new models in and kind of see how our site plan is going to work. And so linking is actually really easy. Now, the nice thing about linking is that you can bring more than one model into Revit, right? And it's sort of, these all sort of function as XREFs, essentially, right? So I have my file, my original file, right? We have 3 model files. You all have a file. They all have individual names, and I'm going to link them together into this one kind of master file so that we can view them all together, right? The nice thing about linking is that you can bring them in, and they're all sort of self-contained like an XREF, right? That's great. Kind of the bad thing about this is that they are self-contained like an XREF, meaning I can't alter them in this file. I have to go back to the original link, make the alteration, and then reload it in order for it to be viewed in this file, okay? So, and I'll go into a little bit of kind of theory on this. This is one of those things where there's kind of not a debate, but kind of best practices discussion that we have in Revit a lot, right? So, for example, I was talking with one of my colleagues and he's doing a multifamily project, right? And they have 4 different units in this multifamily project. So he wants to build the shell, right? The architectural shell. And then he wants to create links for each one of those 4 units, right? Unit A, B, C, D. And then to kind of keep things nice and neat and maintain their integrity individually, he wants to, link them in and put them into the architectural shell. Great idea, right? But in doing so, whenever he needs to make a change to those units, he then has to close his file to be, kind of clean about it, open up the link, make the changes without the file to reference, of course, and then save it back and reload it so he can see the changes. It's just like an XREF, if that makes sense, right? So we went back and forth thinking, yeah, it's a really good way of going about it. It's very clean, but you can't alter it. But then again, you can alter it. So if you have a bunch of people working on a file, then they're sort of sacred, right? They can't be changed easily. Another way of going about what he wanted to do was we talked about doing groups. Okay, so you can group things in Revit as well. You can grab a bunch of things, and there's this grouping option right here, GP. And essentially what this does is, it'll show you in this little video here, it'll allow you to take objects, and this is kind of a SketchUp-y sort of, right? Yeah, thing, but it will allow you to just glue them all together, right? It allows you to glue them all together, but then they also have somewhat of a block functionality where if I change one group, it changes every group. Okay. And what's nice about groups is that I can copy them, I can move them, I can rotate them, and then within the actual Revit file, if I double click on a group, I can edit it, right?
Okay. But
So very SketchUp, yes. So I have the option to group things as well. But I think in this case, if we link things together, it'll work really well for us. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to come over to, let's see, we want to link our Revit file, link Revit, right there. And I'm going to go to, I always like to browse to wherever my files are so that AutoCAD knows, or not AutoCAD, so that Revit knows the path, right, to where I'm grabbing these from. So I go to my desktop, I go to 2510, I go to models, and we'll bring in Ben's first. I'm going to open it, and nothing sort of really seemed to happen, but I'm going to a 3D mode, and you can see there's Ben's linked file, right? So if I click on it, it's all kind of one piece, and you can see if there's any garbage associated with it, right? It all comes with it, of course. So I'm going to go back into my level 1 floor plan here, and I can see there it is. I click on it, and I'm going to MV, move it. And this little guy I'm going to grab, and I'm just going to move it all the way up. Is it touching that corner?
No, it'll be the bottom left corner, but it looks like Ben's got his gapped out.
The bottom left corner? This one?
Bottom left corner of the bottom left unit.
Hold on a second. What is, oh, this is
With this you can delete, you can just keep Ben's and delete all of them.
Can you crop that?
where did this come from, though? Oh, I think this is more stuff in your file, that was in your file. Okay. Yes. No. Nope. Nope. So if I wanted to now, so here's the problem. I'd have to go back into his file and get rid of stuff.
Okay.
Which
the problem is some of those are not in the right place.
These are not in the right
Like
place.
His units are right, but the other stuff is
His unit, these two, but these are not in the right place.
correct.
Okay, so I'm going to close that out. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to open up Ben's file. See, this is where, and it can work where you open them up at the same time, right?
You have to close. Yeah, did you have to close it or?
I just kind of prefer it, and I wouldn't normally say that with AutoCAD.
Yeah, because
but
CAD will mess with X references while they're open
right.
all the time.
It just, you know, Revit, this is where Revit is finicky, I feel like.
Okay.
So I do tend to just close it out. Let's see, vicinity map and make changes. And then WF wireframe. So I can just see what's going on. I'll delete those.
So I think it. Oh yeah, there you go. That works too.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or really, you could delete the top one too, because they're the same unit and one's finished and the other's not. If that makes sense.
Delete this one right here.
I don't know. That's up to Ben.
Well, you're right. One is finished and the other's
yeah,
not.
they're
So
gonna be the same unit.
yeah.
So.
Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I'm going to close that out and save it. All right, so then I go back and I open up my site plan, open that up. And it's still linked. That one really nicely reloaded, right? So if
Okay.
it
So it'll auto reload.
if it hadn't reloaded, the way that we're going to manage, it's called managing our links, essentially. Whose crop region is that? That's in this file. So the way that we're going to manage links, if they didn't happen to reload, right, correctly, we're going to go to Manage. And if you go to Manage Links, and this is where you'll go if anything goes wrong with any of your links. You'll see you have Revit, IFC, CAD format. So if you link in a CAD file, you can reload it here. But I've got Ben's Townhome, and I can choose Reload From and pick that same spot and reload that file, or I can choose Reload here and hit OK, and that's how you're going to manage it, essentially. So I can grab this, MV move, I can click on this bottom corner here. And is that going to sit right there?
It will be 10 feet north of that.
So right there. And then we want to mirror it. And I want to copy it. And then I'll move it over. So I'm going to tab, click. And then how far is this going to be moved up?
8 feet, if I remember right.
8 feet. Okay.
Check in that corner. Yeah.
Yep. Looks good. Okay. So we have these two links in there now. So that looks pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna open up the next file and I'll vet it before we do anything. So we'll open up Mickey's file. How did I mirror everything? I'll do it again. I'll do it slow. Okay, so yours is gonna be. Sorry,
No, you're good.
Okay, so these are gonna be identical. Is that right?
Yeah. So the one on the right you won't need.
Okay. There we go. We'll keep it clean. We'll just get rid of that. I know, don't panic. It's okay.
I feel weird to just watch things get deleted. Like, stop.
I feel very comfortable deleting them all.
You're way too confident in just destroying stuff. This is fine.
I'm ready to press Control C.
There we go. Okay, so we'll close that out, save that. Looks pretty good. Okay. So the way I mirrored it is I just clicked on it, right? In Revit, in AutoCAD, you'll see me, we'll go both ways, but I'll type the command, hit enter, right? And then execute the command. Sometimes I'll pick the object and then I'll initiate the command, either way. But in Revit, you'll almost always see me grab the item first and then initiate the command. And I can click on it here and I can choose mirror here, or I believe the shortcut's MI, mirror. And it says, hey, do you want to mirror this? And it wants me to select the axes of reflection here. And I also want you to notice that it says copy, right? So it's going to create a copy. So I just came in here and I don't want to copy it or mirror it about the center line of that wall. So I'm going to tab till I hit that line. You see that? I click and it mirrored it. And then while it's still selected.
I guess I was amazed by how everything mirrored over, because when I was doing that,
Right.
like you would pick up stuff from upper level, some stuff from basement, but not everything.
Because it's a link.
But this is just a link.
It's
so
all
that's why
self-contained.
it's everything.
Yeah, and so if you're having trouble with that kind of thing, another sort of shortcut, let me show you how to shortcut that. I'm going to move this up now 8 foot, enter. So a shortcut with that is if you want to move something and it's not a link, I will always go into 3D. Let's show previous plus demo plus new. Yeah. So if I'm doing this, I will go to 3D because 3D shows basements, it shows main levels, and it shows upper levels. Yes. So I will do a selection in 3D, right? And then I will close out of that and have the level I want to mirror open behind that. And even if it happens to get deselected, right, I don't touch anything and I can right click and choose select previous and it grabs it all again, right? And then you can do your operation. Yep. All right, so we have these two, and let's go back to insert and go to link Revit, and then we're going to do Mickey's here, hit open, and probably nothing. Oh, there we go. Looks good. Oh, you still have your sight lines. Okay, that's okay. I'm going to MV move it, and this is going to be right. How far up is?
If you line it up with the corner, it'll be 5 feet south.
Okay.
And then just over enough to clear the stairs. So we should 42 inches to the left.
Yeah. Ben's like, I'm not positive about that.
It's supposed to be 42.
So we'll probably have to open Mickey's back up and get rid of some of these lines. So we have this one, and then we have another one. Is it mirrored or is it copied down?
That was just copied.
Copied. Okay. So copied down and then how far? 5 feet again? Okay. All right. So it looks pretty good. So I'm going to close out of this one. Save it. Yes. I'm going to open Mickey's back up and get rid of those sight lines, right? So it's tempting to use these if I talked about using this.
I never use it.
I don't use it. Yeah.
Sometimes it saves it somewhere in my documents, whatever.
Right.
I don't even know what I opened.
Well, if you accidentally open up a backup file and you forget, you've opened a backup file. It still remembers it there, and it shortens the name so you don't see that it's a backup file. And I've lost work because I mistook that for something. So I don't tend to use that because I don't like redoing work. Yeah. Okay. Another little shortcut. I want to select. Oh, these are models. Okay. I was going to say I want to select kind of all of one thing. I can click on it, right click, and I can choose select all instances, visible in view, and it picks them all. I can delete them, right? That's always really helpful if you know that you're trying to find something specific or delete something specific. What is that? Oh, okay. Garbage. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll change the scale so we can see what's going on a little better. Okay. You got a lot of... What's all that weirdness? Oh, you have... Some walls are too tall. They're going through your structure.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm like, what are they?
You're just seeing it through the structure, so it's probably like you have to give it an offset of 12 down because your structure is 12.
Up to the top of the floor, not
Right.
the bottom of the floor.
Exactly. Yep.
I guess when I was making floors, I didn't say yes, attach.
But don't do that anyway.
Yeah, I don't.
Don't do that anyway.
Just make your floors, when they go up to the height of level 2 or whatever, just make it a negative 12 inch.
Yeah.
Down. If that makes sense. I'll show you.
Okay, so we have Mickey's in there now and we can save it, yes. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to open and I'm going to browse to our site plan and take another look at it, of course. Make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And that one reloaded really well too. So everything is coming together nicely. We've got one more that we have to bring in, and that one is Patrick. So we're going to open up yours, Wilson. And we're going to get rid of some of your garbage.
I got a lot of garbage over there.
That's okay.
That's just how they all fit together.
Totally fine. Site plan. We'll get rid of... Oh, we gotta uncrop this. There we go. We'll hide the little base point here. There we go. Get rid of all this stuff. Looks good. Go into 3D, see if there's anything else hanging out. Looks pretty good though. Does need a roof. Did you have a roof on it before?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I wasn't sure what we were doing, so
This is the main level. Okay. Alright, but that looks pretty good from what I can see. We'll save it, and then we'll link our final model in. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to link Revit. And the key really to this too is I'm using the term link, right, as opposed to insert, because when I link models, they come in and they maintain a relationship to their original file. And when I, for example, import them, they just come in standalone, right? They don't maintain it.
I'm part of that.
Right, yep, it's like binding an XREF. So I'm going to move this over, and it's going to, if I line it up here, right, and then I MV, move it over, oops, there, and then we're going to MV, move it down 5 more. Is that right? Yeah, 5 feet, right there. Is it mirrored?
not mirrored.
Copied.
We could mirror it. It might be. Well, no, because you want to be able to see the park.
Yeah.
Balcony.
There you go.
Make that fit.
Okay, I'm going to save that. And then we're going to pop into 3D and just kind of start taking a look at all of these things, right? So this is a really good tool. Right click. We're going to, here's another thing. Let's talk about some visual graphics with regards to our linked models, right? Start looking at these and deciding what needs to happen on them. I'm going to go into visual graphics, VG, and so here, visual graphics is really tricky when you have linked models, and it's tricky because you are now working with an active file, okay? And the active file, these are the settings for the active file, right? Meaning if I go into like my annotation and I turn off my levels right there, and I hit OK.
It'll keep all the other
it'll keep, oh, wait,
Oh, never mind.
that is maybe something new in 2019. Because, and I say that because I'm going to go to Visual Graphics again. We have a Revit links option here now. And, oh no, it's by host view. Okay, we're good. So
okay.
we have all three of these available to us for Visual Graphics. So I can manipulate what is shown in them individually.
So by host view, it'll just go off of
what we do in the host. Yes. So if I want to go if I want it to be different than the host view, I'll click on that and I can choose custom. Okay. And then now when I click on custom, now these tabs, these are all per project. And I have to come in and choose custom, and then it will, yes, and it will only turn things off within that specific link. You have to get this, if you're going to do this, you have to get it clear in your mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Visual Graphics. So right now, these tabs are for the current file, okay? And the current file really doesn't have anything in it. It just has the links in it, right? So if I turn these on and off, and I'm not going to say generally, but you saw what happened, right? If I turn these on and off, really they should control the active file. Although, with that said, if I go to Revit links, the links are now set by host view. So that means that the active file is the host model, and those are going to comply with whatever we do in the host, all right? But there may be a case where you don't want it to be the same as the host. You want something else to happen, right? You want to turn the furniture off in your linked model, but you don't want it to turn off in the host, okay? So in that case, you would click on by host view and change it to custom. And by doing that, now when you click on these categories, we have to change it again to custom. Now these categories just control the individual linked models.
Okay.
Okay, and the individual linked models by name, meaning I've mirrored a couple of them, I've copied a couple of them, but they still have the same name. They're just copies of one another. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Somewhat? Okay. This was always really tricky when I kind of train people on it, right? They're like, oh, I think everybody gets the general concept, but until you start working with it, you don't really understand the implications of what's happening. Okay. So we have all of our models here. So just to, let me just do something real quick here. I'm going to create a quick topo surface in here. I'm going to go to Massing and Site, and I'm going to choose Topo Surface, just so that we can see where the ground plane is, right? And I'm going to place a couple of points here at 0. How many of you are comfortable with doing topography?
Say it again?
How many of you are comfortable with doing topography?
A little practice and I'd be fine. But
Okay, it's good to know. There is our,
We're adding those points, those slope or whatever.
yes.
Topo points, whatever they're called.
Yep, so I'm going to hit undo and go back into my surface. So I've placed a point, and that point,
I remember topography.
right? If I click on it, I have an elevation of 0. So now let's say I want to place a point. I want to go maybe like -1 foot. You have to update it every time you want to change elevation. So I'm just going to do -1. I'll just do a quick, see if I can get it to do a quick kind of swale around this thing. Let's see if we can get it. So all of these points I'm placing are, oh, that's too far out. Oh, shoot. Too far out.
Dig in the neighbor's yard.
And in fact, yeah, those are all way too far out too. -1 to there, and then we'll just go back to 0 all along here. And probably here, yeah. Okay, and then let's do like -3. Hopefully this will work out. It may be a disaster. Because I'm doing it so
Slow.
quick.
We should probably try what I was suggesting regarding bands.
What do you mean? What in that one? I don't remember.
Like this, where the Harvard is, so we can drop the ground level on that side. Like basically all the way down, so you can get out of the house there. In the basement.
Oh, to make like an exit from the basement for his?
Just
You could probably fit that.
Okay, so there's kind of a basic ground view. It didn't do a whole lot for us. Yeah. But in general, right, it gives us a good sense of what's happening. So might be not terrible to put some massing in for the houses around it, just so you can kind of see what they look like. That's pretty nice though, like on the corner there.
Good.
You could do some more storefront, right?
I was gonna say you can make a whole corner.
That
if
whole
you
corner.
wanted to.
And then you'd
See
have
on
some,
the other one, yeah, over there, I'm like, what do I do there?
that's nice
Yeah,
though.
so I'd almost make only 5 feet of it rather than because you have 2 panels. I'd almost make just one.
So it's kind of equal. And then we need
you
one
could
right
have
there.
Corner instead. Like
Is
if
that-
you have 2 here, you could scoot it in the corner if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, just having the.
Yeah, half
Yeah.
on each side. I think that would be the right way to go. You get the same amount of windows, but then they would cover each other up and
Yeah,
stuff.
I'll try that.
Yeah, that's nice.
Plus then you get this whole corner of window, which would look really
God,
cool.
this little guy just looks so flat now, right?
Well, it's gotta have stuff on top.
Man, you're
Just
so-
wait till that
Okay.
top is popular.
Okay. All right, so let's go back to level 1. And I'm going to start dragging.
Blank right now. You gotta work with it. It'll make it cool.
I'm going to start dragging my elevation markers now into place so that I can start viewing flat elevations. And I'm going to put some elevations on the interior of the space as well so we can start viewing those. But I think by putting these all together, you're going to be able to see what needs to happen with the elevations pretty quick, right? Of course, this means you guys are going to have to communicate about it. And then I can go to view. Let's see, view. I'm going to go to elevation, and I'm going to create. Here's one trick about linked files, which is interesting. As you notice, the little head on that elevation didn't sense the wall. You know how when you place,
So it's not a wall.
it's not part of your actual model, and so it's not recognizing it essentially. So that is one weird thing about having linked files. But other than that, I mean, they all work very well. This whole system works very well. But you do have to go back in, and I'm going to click that. I'll uncheck that. Right, that looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to grab the little ends here and drag them in, and we'll take a look at our, there we go. And we'll drag this little guy out just like that. That looks good. And then we want to see this inside view here. And you guys can, ooh, that was weird.
That happens to me all the time.
Does it?
They just
Snaps
keep
or something weird.
disappearing.
Yeah.
If I go to upper level, they're all gone. Go to basement, I have too many.
Really? So here's one thing about elevation markers that you may not have known, and it's that they are level sensitive. And let me show you what that means. So this, you run into this a lot with interior elevations. So if I like click on that and I engage my, which you'll have to change. Oh, that's not good, huh?
What's happening there?
Well, it's because you have,
All the levels.
Oh, it's all the old phasing stuff.
yeah, there we go. And visual graphics, let's turn our levels off for now, right? So here's one, you're going to get a lot of weirdness with the levels because you'll have 3 different projects with 3 different levels being brought in. And so you'll have to go in and turn them off, right? We'll turn the levels off just for now. But what I mean by, being level sensitive is that, it's going to work a little bit better with me showing you with interior elevations. Hold on. But if these elevations, there we go. Click on that elevation. This is an interior elevation. Do you see how the scope box goes from below the main level or the basement level all the way up through the roof, right?
Yeah.
What that does is it makes it so that regardless of what level I'm on, level 1, level 2, I can see the marker, right? And if I go to the basement level, I'll see the marker as well. But if I were to take this interior elevation and change my crop region so that maybe only it went to just below level 2, you see what I'm doing there?
Yeah.
And level 2 meaning like the actual dashed level 2 that you've defined. If I put it below that,
And then go to level 2.
it won't show.
Exist.
Yeah.
But if it shows level 2, then it will,
Right. If it engages level 2 vertically, then it will show. But if you bring it just below level 2, then it won't.
Okay. That's actually pretty nice.
I think that sometimes when your elevation markers disappear, it's likely because the crop region on your elevation is not engaging, or it is engaging that vertical datum in whatever way that's making it disappear. Yeah. Do you guys want this file? You can have this file if you want it,
Yeah.
with them all linked together. So I think what you guys need to do, your task, should you choose to accept, is I want you to start looking at these and deciding, just like you were talking, right? Immediately you looked at that and you were like, oh, we like that, let's turn the corner with it. Oh, I like that, let's, turn the corner with that.
Yeah.
Do we want these roofs? Do we want them to be pitched? Do we want some of them to be flat? These look kind of flat to me. What's going to be happening with that roof, right?
Cool stuff.
But oh my, that would drive me insane. Insane. If I were your neighbor or living in that,
Enough room, you could put something like that. That thing's giant.
I would be popping basketballs like a mad woman. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to your basketball, kid. It's funny. But yeah, I just want you to, without any other discussion on it, I want you to start looking at these and decide what is working and what is not working. And I think at this point you can start doing that. We'll talk about some other type of, once I see kind of your iteration of what you feel like is working and not working, we'll go through some design elements on elevations, right, that we will want to watch out for. But I want you to go through this first and just kind of decide what things you like and what things you don't like. So I'm going to stop the recording now.